Hello everyone and welcome to our Circle and Salve Women. So today we are going to talk about the title from my article, just most appropriate to me, was "Why are you so skinny? You don't need to work out." And I know it sounds silly, but in my mind, my answer is always, I am skinny because I do work out. And now some of you may think you're not very skinny, and I know. Sometimes I have a moment or two where I just think to myself, I just honestly ate a mug of espresso ice cream. I actually just did this today, and I felt good about it, and it's no big deal. But you know, there are consequences. The older you get, you know that you have to say to yourself, now I'm gonna have to hit the gym a little bit harder tomorrow, because I know it was well worth it while I was eating it, but I will definitely pay the consequence, and so it'll be payback time tomorrow. And so that's what you have to do. However, I have also run into people where their DNA, and this was always a fascinating word for me, so bear with me if I say it incorrectly, but deoxyribonucleic acid, and that is it's what we inherit, right? It's our organism's makeup. It's what our body is made up of. And goodness, I want to say this right, but I believe that our DNA is made up of like 50 something. I want to say 52, so then half 26. And so in that case, goodness, I hope to have that right. I'm no science expert, but to me, it's always so fascinating, because then it becomes mathematical, how science ties into mathematics, where you really don't realize that it becomes this, you know, where the maternal and the paternal sides just coexist within you, and then all of a sudden you are one part this and one part that. So there's one blue-eyed here and then brown-eyed here, so you may get either the blue-eyed or the brown-eyed. And then there are those that end up having eyes that change colors. Fascinating. And then there are those whose parents have blonde hair, and then the other one has, you know, black onyx hair, and then all of a sudden their hair changes into a different color, and then or that it can change as time progresses, and there's so much of a makeup within you that makes you such a unique masterpiece. And I've always found that to be so fascinating. However, when I was much younger, in my mind, I've always pictured everyone to not, you know, to perhaps maybe because maybe just me calling it upon myself, if that self-centeredness where you think to yourself, well, why would anyone have a weight issue? You just go work out, hit the gym, and you're totally fine, you know. And then I ran into a younger daughter whose mother was quite slender, but on the paternal side was much more on the heavier side. And so, of course, the slender mother, trying to promote good health, good eating habits, and everything, was trying to give this child certain foods to eat so that they could maintain their weight. But this child was under the age of 10. And it just made me wonder, like, wow, you know, sometimes this weight becomes such an issue for a younger child that all of a sudden their happiness and joy has to be set aside because of the weight being a focal point. And when you're in high school, you set yourself, you say nothing, and you try to be in silence with your own judgment, but you do observe, and because you are making sense of the world. And I remember seeing this and witnessing this and thinking, wow, that's really actually an issue. And I always wonder, well, did that person grow up to be now pushing themselves to working out, or did they just eventually succumb to it and saying, this is who I am, and if I'm going to be heavyweight for the rest of my life, then this is my makeup? And I realized that people run into that issue every day. It's a fight. If you really want to lose weight, you know, I can easily say, go hit the gym, but perhaps it's because my makeup has already made me at a much more head start, where it's not so hard for me to go ahead and lose that mug. I want to say mug, not cup. Mug of espresso ice cream that I just completely devoured, inhaled, and just, you know, all inside of me that I know I will pay off, but it will it will cause me to work harder at the gym. And yet, do people have a mental fight already that has suggested in their mind that they will never be able to arrive at the same type of physique that they may be looking at on someone else's body, and thinking that no matter how hard I work, I'll never be that? And so for me, it's with everything. When it comes to health, I feel that I really owe it to my ancestors. There had to have been someone that enjoyed eating oatmeal rather than a waffle. I love making waffles, and I love making hot strawberries, and I love making homemade whipped cream, and those are things I love to do. But it's funny, I like to make them for others, and then when I try to eat it, and for me it's like sometimes my body just goes, that's not what you want. It's maybe what you wanted to make because you love making it, but it's not what your body wants to really digest right now and take in. And so when I think about your body's makeup, does that really has it come to my mind? Yes, it has. That somewhere along the way, my DNA had to do with the mindset as well. That something believed in good health before me. My ancestors have started that mindset, and we adapt. If you look in history, there are many things that have adapted in where scientifically people can say that we were a certain way and then we grew up to be a different way. Like giraffes, somehow maybe their necks were not as long, but when they needed to reach the foods that they wanted to reach, then their necks got longer. So many phenomena out there that we have to kind of go, okay, how did this come about? And for us, we know that God created all. There had to have been someone to create everything, because nothing creates itself. And yet we have to think, then how did we adapt? Because we are strong by nature, and we survive, and we are survivors by nature. And so for us, we had to have been adaptive mentally, spiritually, and physically. And so I think to myself, did my ancestors choose having the mindset of saying, I've got to eat these types of foods so that I could end up being able to function in the manner that I am purposed to do? Because there were some of us who needed to be physically fit to be able to sustain the type of life that they were purposed to do. And so if we were somewhat having to have some athleticism in us to be able to carry something, or to be able to be a messenger, to run something through, maybe those were the fast runners, maybe those are the ones that ended up having to do things and therefore that others couldn't do, and so therefore they knew they had to eat the right way, and therefore they knew that they had to discipline a certain way. And somehow those chromosomes within us became part of that, not just the physical part of it, but really more of the characteristic within that physical piece of being skinny. Does that mean that you just continue to be that way? Because I can tell you that I would be definitely somewhat different. I would definitely be having much greater challenges with my weight if I did not push myself to go hit the gym all the time. And I know it because it sits in my body, but it's also in my personality to not like it. And so my only reasoning, and again, this goes part with your DNA makeup, and this could be my very character, is that when someone says, I'm gaining weight and I'm doing all, I need to lose weight. And I said, okay, do. And I know that sometimes it's a very cold-hearted answer, but I always say, if you're not happy with something, do something about it. But don't complain about it. Don't commiserate. Don't just keep talking about it where you're just running in circles. It's like a cat chasing its tail. I think I mentioned this in one of my previous articles, where you're just not going anywhere with your complaints. You are verbalizing, you are vocalizing, you are definitely being heard in many circumstances, but yet there's no solution base to it. And all it is that I'm going to be hearing the same thing next week and the week after and the week after. And guess what? The weight's is not shedding because you haven't done anything about it. For me, I know I'm going to hit the gym because I know that as much as I enjoy that mug of espresso ice cream, I also know that my body, if it continues on, it will then continue to gain the weight. And I already have looked at my mom. I know that their physical appearance has to do a lot with like their abs, because everybody has a challenge part in your body, where it could be your thighs, it could be your abs, it could be your arms, it could, whatever it is that, if you just look at your parents, you just know what it is that your body would be able to shed or would be able to really have difficulty in shedding. And so for me, I know it's going to go to my tummy. I know that it's going to go ahead and haunt me if I don't do anything about it. And if I keep eating things that I love and yet have to pay for, I know that there has to be that balance of the give and take, right? That equilibrium, where, is that even a sales? It may be like a sales term, but really more of just that, where you have to find the middle part of it, of that balance. I always say it's balance, right? You eat what you want. Never really truly believe in making my body suffer. I always felt like it had to have joy and peace, but then I also had to have joy and peace in my workout, so that I didn't want to get to a position where then both sides would be extreme. And yes, sometimes you push yourself, you eat a lot, you work out a lot, right? And so for sometimes when I'm doing 25 minutes on cardio, then maybe next time it'll be 45 minutes, because I know that I did more to my body that was harmful than the day before. And your body. And so for me, when I look back at that 10-year-old, or pardon me, that younger than 10-year-old child, I have to wonder, when they look at their surroundings, do they just surrender? Do they just say, that's who I am going to be in about 10 to 20 years, so I might as well accept it, and I might just be about it and move towards that direction? See, when I look at my parents, I don't look at them that way. I say to myself, that I know is going to be an issue for me, because definitely my mom has, it's in her gut that she starts to gain weight. That's going to be my challenge. That's going to be my focal point in making sure that I will do my best to make sure that that will always be as lean as I can make it. And if I start to actually go beyond it, if I start to abuse that and know that it's getting out of hand, I've got to control it, because it's within me. And that no excuse policy that I have to say to myself, I have got to be ahead of it before it catches up with me mentality. And so I have to think that with people's physique, is it that we surrender mentally before we actually accept it physically? Because if I was to just look at what everyone was becoming around me, then I could honestly say that I wouldn't have to hit the gym. I wouldn't have to enjoy working out. And you have to trick your mind sometimes to say you enjoy it, because you know darn well when you go in there, you're dragging yourself at times. But when you're done, never have you ever left the gym. I have never left the gym, and anyone I've ever talked to, whenever you leave the gym, you never have regrets for having gone in. So please remind yourself of that. But it's got to start. It's got to start from day one. How is it that I'm looking at people who were twice, perhaps 3 times their size, and somehow mentally they made the decision that they were going to lose weight, and they did it. So with that said, this article that I'm covering is really thinking about people who set their minds up for that way. That statement, you're so skinny, why work out? And so my answer for that is, if I am skinny to you, because I may not be to many people, but if I am skinny to you, it's because I do work out. And you have to just be in the correct mindset to get there, because you don't say whatever goal you have, it's not a backwards thing, it's a forward thing. And so for me, whenever I feel that I am starting to take it for granted, then I know, no, I've eaten a way too many bag of chips. or, I've eaten too many of my favorite, whatever it may be, foods, because I love anything pasta. I don't care what nationality or origin it's from. If it's good for me. And yet I know I'm going to be paying the consequence, and when I say pay the consequence, then I have to deal with it. So I hope you deal with it as well. I hope that this message is positive for you, and that you give yourself that no excuse policy, because it really can take you. It can really make it easier for you to just go, it's going to happen, it's just going to be what it is. But you have to think, did your ancestors have a choice? If they were told to be a certain way, if they were purposed to be disciplined a certain way, they had to have eaten a certain way. If they were the ones that didn't have to be the workers and the laborers, then perhaps they didn't have to lose the weight and be so lean, and because that was the way of life back then. And so for you, what is your mindset? Do you think of yourself as someone who needs to be lean? If you don't, then don't, right? But accept it and love yourself for who you are. If you do feel that you are most definitely defined as someone who's lean and needs to be that way to be at your peace and joy, I know I am. I know that I'm happiest when I feel I am most healthy physically. Then that's where I have to be at all times, because that's where my peace is. That's where my joy is. Again, if your joy is loving you no matter what it is of how you look, as long as you're feeling good about yourself, then be about it. But don't do yourself a favor by being true to you no matter what, because you're always going to have surroundings that will tell you otherwise. People who are lean will get people to say negative things to them that should not affect them if they don't allow it to affect them, in the same way that people who have gained a lot of weight or maybe bigger will have shots taken at them that may be negative as well. But if you don't let it get to you and you embrace it, and that's who I am, I'm a teddy bear and I just love me for who I am, and then take that power away from people who try to take you down, then it won't matter, because the power is from within you. But you have to be real with yourself and ask yourself, how do you define yourself mentally, so that physically then your body will follow. So, in the words of my mother, God bless us all, be healthy in however you want to look and feel, and move about that, be about that, and just continue to just really strengthen yourself in that mindset, because at the end of the day, you are your own fight. You are your own excuse. You are your own purpose. You are your own destiny. Have a great day, everyone.